First, I want to give all praise to Yahweh Bashem Yahshai, and double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who are teaching this truth and sincerity. And a shout out to the Akim, people out there like me who may be alone or just, just come into this truth, but also have the courage to go out there and teach no matter what. Shout out to you also, Akim. So, anyhow, we've been exposing stretch Christianity for a little while. I know it's a hot topic and everything, but, it's not because we're trying to get more viewers and all that, but quite simply put, we're trying to tear down the strongholds of Esau, the so-called white man, and yet trying to expose that and bring a light of the truth, because the milk, is these scriptures. So we're trying to give you the milk and the bones of these scriptures, the actual meat, so that way, we will no longer be tore down by these wacky Christians, because what they have done, though, is they have pretty much catfished us. And I know that not everybody's hip to, that term catfish, but Catfish is the show on MTV where, the person that you think this person is, but he isn't really, has been deceiving the whole time. And he gets caught in the act pretty much of in his web of lies. So, we're trying to expose Esau and his web of lies, which has been stretched Christianity. But we're going to prove today, though, that Esau, had pretty much taken over Greece, and of course Egypt, especially when Alexander the Great, who was an Edomite, pretty much had taken over these places. And so that's how, stretched Christianity is just another version of Greek mythology, just a little bit of name change and all that. And they took out certain books of the Bible because it gave you the history. And, so by deleting these books, which we know as the Apocrypha, they were able to take out certain history. Although you could read about Alexander the Great, they have many books on him under Greek mythology, So we know Esau, the so-called white man, was Alexander the Great, and so that's why Greek mythology can be found. And yet it's even taught in history, in actual regular secular history, right? Alexander the Great, Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, Egyptian gods, all that stuff is actually taught in Esau's schools, but is not linked up to the Bible. They took out these books of the Bible, which we know as the Apocrypha. So First Maccabees, goes into the history of Alexander the Greek, Alexander the Great, who was an Edomite, and so we're just going to get right into it, because we're going to see right there the history of that and why stretch Christianity has mixed Greek mythology there, because, of course, Esau took it over, just like he took over and eventually conquered Jerusalem in 70 A.D. It's all there in First Maccabees chapter 1, so we'll just start with verse 1. And I do apologize, I do not have the King James version of the Apocrypha. What I have is, I believe, New Living Translation, so some words are going to be... actually, it's the New Revised Standard Version with the Apocrypha. So, New Revised Version, so... but that's what I have. They didn't want these books to get out there. They took them out of the Bible because it goes into the history. So, First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1. After Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came from the land of Kittim, had defeated King Darius of the Persians and the Medes, he succeeded him as king. He had previously become king of Greece. So Esau had taken over Greece, pretty much, and also had conquered the Persians. He fought many battles, conquered strongholds, and put to death the kings of the earth. He advanced to the ends of the earth and plundered many nations, which we know Esau still does that to this day, like he's done to Libya, to Iraq, drained all the resources of those countries. Now those countries are no longer prosperous, but are nothing but war zones, so same thing here. When the earth became quiet before him, he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. He gathered a very strong army and ruled over countries, nations, and princes, and they became tributary to him. After this, he fell sick and perceived that he was dying. So he summoned his most honored officers who had been taught up with him from youth and divided his kingdom among them while he was still alive. And after Alexander had reigned 12 years, he died. And they do have a movie called Alexander, and it actually shows him being a homosexual. Yes, the Sodomites are a direct line of the Edomites, because they practice sodomy. We can see that now, with these, now they have the bathroom laws where it's all gender. You got transgenders, you got all these other things. But Alexander the Greek was also a homosexual. Then his officers began to rule, each in his own place. They all put on crowns after his death, and so did their descendants. And for many years, they had caused many evils on the earth. So pretty much what he had done is he had, Esau, the so-called white man, had taken over this area, took the crowns and called himself royalty, and that's what he did when he rose to power again, had taken the crowns of the kings and the princes that ruled over in the United Kingdom. My bloodline, where I can trace it back to being a Hebrew Israelite in the essence of the areas of England, Scots, and Wales, because this is what Esau did when he had taken over the kingdom, and I eventually would become confusion of face, and he'd done this to many nations over there, and this is a history on that, and this is the history they don't want you to know. What's in here, so they took these books out of the Bible, especially concerning Judah, because they want you to believe that Esau is the Jews. But he doesn't call himself Esau, of course, no. He calls himself the Ashkenazi Jews. And here it is right here, starting in verse 10. Because this is dealing with Antiochus, Epiphanes, and the renegade Jews. The renegade Jews. So what is it to be a renegade? That's, we were being hunted down and chased after by Esau, the so-called white man, back then. From them came forth a sinful root. And this is talking about Esau, the so-called white man. Antiochus, Epiphanes, and son of King Antiochus, he had been a hostage in Rome. He began to reign in 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So we know that this Grecian Empire was ruled by Esau, the so-called white man, And so we know that Esau had taken that over and eventually would mold into the Roman Empire, because the Roman Empire is very much mentioned here. So the first beast is the Roman Empire. And we know that that's the second beast today. In those days, certain renegades came out from Israel and misled many, saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with the Gentiles around us, for since we separated from them, many disasters have come upon us." So again, making a deal with the devil, which was Esau at this time, which is the devil now. Esau, so-called white man, thought that they could make a deal with him, right? This proposal pleased them, and some of the people eagerly went to the king, who authorized them to observe the ordinances of the Gentile. So they built a gymnasium in Jerusalem according to Gentile custom, and removed the marks and circumcision, and abandoned the holy covenant. They joined with the Gentiles and sold themselves to do evil. And this is would eventually lead to what we now know as the abomination of desolation that took place, when they had, had pretty much stopped the daily sacrifice, and they began to take on these customs. And so would eventually all mold to what we know as stretched Christianity today. Well, Antiochus had also taken over Egypt, and it mentions that. When Antiochus saw that his kingdom was established, he determined to become king of the land of Egypt, in order that he may reign over both kingdoms. So he invaded Egypt with a strong force, with chariots and elephants and cavalry and a large fleet. He entered King Ptolemy of Egypt in battle, and Ptolemy turned and fled before him, and many were wounded and fell. They captured the founded cities in the land of Egypt, and he plundered the land of Egypt. So, so that's why Greek mythology and Egyptian mythology is actually taught in regular schools, because we're talking about the same people, the Edomites that had done this. So that's why this is accepted, but yet they want to take out this part because, in fact, it was in the Bible when Esau rose to power the first time and the second time. First Maccabees, it particularly connects all the missing links to Daniel 9:27, the covenant with many for a week, and when they went into the temple and they desecrated it, all that is actually in this first book of Maccabees. And so we're just going to read down. I think I'll stop about... we'll just continue because, this is... there's no time limit here. So, and after subduing Egypt, Antiochus returned in 143rd year. He went up against Israel and came to Jerusalem with a strong force. He arrogantly entered the sanctuary and took the golden altar, the lamp, stand for the light, and all its utensils. He took also the table of the bread of the presence, the cups for drink offerings, the house and golden censers, the curtain, the crowns, and the gold decoration on the front of the temple. He stripped it all off. He took the silver and the gold and the costly vessels. He took also and hid the golden treasures that he found. Taking them all, he went into his own hand. He shed much blood and spoke with great arrogance. Israel mourned deeply in every community. Rulers and elders groaned. Young women and young men became faint. The beauty of the woman faded. And thus, this is talking about the beauty of the nation. Because woman can also mean nation. So it's talking about when the nation of Israel was pretty much conquered by the Edomites. Every bridegroom took up his lament. She who sat in the bridal chamber was mourning. Even the last trembled for its inhabitants, and all the house of Jacob was clothed with shame. So, this is pretty much talking about when Jerusalem was captured and they went into the temple and desecrated it. These are the things that Esau doesn't want you to know about, because he wants you to create that illusion that the Antichrist will come and he'll set up, he'll make a peace treaty with Palestine, which, covenant with many. He'll make a peace treaty with Palestine, they'll have the 7-year peace, but in the middle of that, they want you to think that those are the Jews, but we know that they're not. But thus, First Maccabees, especially chapter 1, dissolves all that. And this just proves one more thing, though, is that stretch Christianity is really Greek mythology. And Greek mythology is taught in your historical classes, same with Egyptian mythology. So we're taught all that. They just did a movie called Gods of Egypt, and it shows the Egyptians being white, being the Edomites, because Esau had taken that over. But he doesn't want you to know of the people or the civilizations that had existed before. That's why when you go into history, you really only learn about stuff during the Renaissance era. And he wants you to believe that he's all those images, which is why he took down our images. And these books of the Apocrypha, teach the history, and it has everything to do with the Bible. But they don't want you to know anything about that. But nonetheless, though, this is how Esau has been deceiving the world, because we're in that time period when Esau will be brought back to power, which Satan means adversary. Our adversary, Esau, will be brought back to power to deceive the world, and we know that he's gone into the four quarters of the earth, taught stretch Christianity, and has deceived the world with many of these false philosophies, taught what he wanted to teach. So, we're just tearing down that stronghold because Esau has been made bare. in everything, and that's what we're here to do. We are here to occupy until the hopeful elect are reached, and then it'll be time to get out of this place, Babylon the Great, America, because it will be destroyed one day, and Edom pretty much will be dissolved, which Edom is pretty much all the places of Esau, all of his secret places. And so we know, though, that occupied Jerusalem will be destroyed as well. Those faggots that are in Tel Aviv, these sodomites. And we know that Alexander the Greek was, in fact, a sodomite. So we know where the sodomites come from. That they come from the Edomites, and that's why these bathroom laws, that's why, homosexual marriage is accepted. That's why transgenders is acceptable. Thus, even, when you sort of dissolve, because a lot of people, just don't want to accept, homosexual marriage, don't recognize it, because, but now it's becoming recognizable, so they always say, like, whenever they talk about it on TV, but if that's the way you are, that's okay, that's what they're taught to say, but it's not okay, no. As a matter of fact, this is the very reason why Babylon the Great, America, which is spiritually Sodom and Egypt, is about to be destroyed. So this proves that the Sodomites, the Egyptians, and the Greeks, and all their philosophies and teachings are all in this place of mystery Babylon the Great, America. And, it's historical fact that the Edomites were, in fact, the ones that had created stretched Christianity out of the mythology when they had taken over those places. So hope this has been edifying, and hope this helps to dissolve some more of those strongholds of stretched Christianity to where they're no longer a stronghold, but just something that we can look at and say, well, pretty much we could see why they would want us to believe that, such as Jesus, meaning Zeus, and just we're taught everything else that we're not supposed to be learning, that, and it just totally differs. This word of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai differs with everything we've been taught, and so we're just bringing out the real truth, and that's what's going to help us to survive when He cometh back, and hopefully we're part of that elect, because we don't want to be destroyed here in Babylon the Great. So, again, shalom to the Akim that's out there, and want to give all praise to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai.